Welcome to Act Out. I'm Eleanor Goldfield, and this is your tipping point. This Saturday and Sunday, a citizen-driven tribunal will take agro-giant Monsanto to court. And not just any court, the International Court of Justice at The Hague in the Netherlands. Based on the decades-long harm caused to both people and planet, and the free rein that governments across the globe have given to this heinous corporation, a group of volunteer activists, experts, and lawyers have organized this tribunal to not only push for accountability, but for a legal precedent that would criminalize the destruction of planet for profit. Indeed, on the table this weekend will be the question of whether or not to add the crime of ecocide to the Rome Statute. And the Rome Statute is what dictates what the International Criminal Court can try. Currently, this includes genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, crimes of aggression, etc., etc. And you may recall from episode 55, Polly Higgins, the leading expert in ecocide, spoke to us about the significance of adding this crime to the framework of the ICC. And this weekend, it might just happen. So, if you need an ecocide recap, check out the site list in the description for a link to that interview. Now, as for this weekend, the tribunal will present judges with a testimony of 20 plaintiffs from South and North America, Europe, Africa, and Asia, who have been harmed by Monsanto. And based on this testimony, judges will answer 6 questions and offer up an advisory opinion that will serve as a basis for future lawsuits against Monsanto and other agribusiness corporations. And these 6 questions aren't just pulled from thin air. They are in fact based on laws and guidelines that are already recognized by the ICC, such as the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights and the Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights. The 6 questions posed to the court are as follows. 1. Right to a healthy environment. Did the firm Monsanto violate by its activities the right to a safe, clean, healthy, and sustainable environment? 2. Right to food. Did the firm Monsanto violate by its activities the right to food? 3. Right to health. Did the firm Monsanto violate by its activities the right to the highest attainable standard of health? 4. Freedom of expression and academic research. Did the firm Monsanto violate the freedom indispensable for scientific research? 5. Complicity in war crimes. Is the firm Monsanto complicit in the commission of a war crime by providing materials to the United States Army in the context of Operation Ranch Hand, launched in Vietnam in 1962? 6. Ecocide. Could the past and present activities of Monsanto constitute a crime of ecocide, understood as causing serious damage or destroying the environment, so as to significantly and durably alter the global commons or ecosystem services upon which certain human groups rely? Now, you may be thinking to yourself, those are some powerful questions and good points, but that quote-unquote advisory opinion just keeps nagging at the back of my mind. What does it mean? Is this tribunal a toothless endeavor? Well, while the opinion of the court won't bring Monsanto to heel in terms of victim compensation or legally binding decisions, it will, as previously stated, consider whether ecocide should be added to the Rome Statute. Provide victims and their legal counsel the arguments and legal grounds for further lawsuits against Monsanto within their national jurisdictions, and highlight the need to hold transnational corporations accountable on all judicial levels, from local to international. And by holding this tribunal at The Hague, the crimes of companies like Monsanto will be placed in the appropriately global paradigm. Because Monsanto is not a U.S. problem, though it be a U.S. corporation. The aforementioned questions of the right to food and a healthy environment, these are questions that need to be asked and answered on a local and a global scale, particularly as climate change progresses with little to no legal barriers. Which is in turn why the question of ecocide is so important. This tribunal raises awareness and sets a precedent that cannot be ignored. Well, it can be, but whether or not it's ignored is really up to us, the people, as with anything else. And this is why the tribunal is going one step further and also organizing a People's Assembly at The Hague between Friday and Sunday to talk strategies in the people's fight against Big Ag. The assembly will include a press conference, speakers and panels, workshops, documentary screenings, and of course, a live stream from the tribunal proceedings next door. So to learn more about this, visit monsanto-tribunal.org. And for those who find The Hague rather geographically inconvenient, I have something for you as well. This Sunday, October 16th, March Against Monsanto will be holding events around the world for World Food Day, exposing Monsanto's crimes and pushing for food justice and awareness. Here again, the goal is to get the word out, to activate the dormant mounds of people that lie between our present corporate climate and corporate accountability. So to give us an inside perspective on this event, the GMO fight, and what you can do every day on a local scale, we sat down with Tammy Canal from March Against Monsanto. Take a look. Talk about the science blackout with regards to studies on GMOs and Monsanto's drive to silence anti-GMO groups and individuals.
So, as far as the science blackout goes, we've all seen what Monsanto and their big bank account can do to silence any opposition to their studies. I mean, Gio Seralini is a classic example of, just a career of a widely respected scientist that was slammed, dragged through the mud, defamed. I mean, they've managed to just shred any credibility that the study had successfully, which is unfortunate, but that is the power Monsanto has. And with universities like Harvard and MIT joining in with, the poison peddlers, it's really disappointing because it's just further proof of how they're buying the public opinion and buying their pro stance, and they silence everything like the glyphosate studies that show infertility, sterility, cancer, Alzheimer's. The research is out there. It's just it's silenced, it's swept under the rug. And it's not just at the college level. They have something called the Monsanto Fund, and they're basically donating money to elementary schools, and these schools are taking the money and building gardens. And so these young kids are growing up equating Monsanto with sustainability. I mean, ironic doesn't even begin to describe it. It's very unfortunate, and that's why we have to really keep up our public education campaign, because they are now attacking our youth with their propaganda.
Of course, just like the cigarette companies or fast food
Yeah.
or any of that. So talk a little bit about this Harvard and MIT issue, because these are really scientifically respected institutions, and they're working with Monsanto on a new technology known as CRISPR. So first off, what is this technology? And you mentioned this a little bit, but what is the significance of Monsanto working with institutions that are respected in the scientific community?
Well, again, because now people are going to think this CRISPR technology is some wonderful thing. And basically, what it is a more precise way to gene edit. And it actually goes in and you can splice specific parts of the DNA. And, the pro crowd will have you believe it's some amazing revolutionary tool that's going to create, or I'm sorry, fix things like, for example, sickle cell anemia mutations. They are alleging that this technology could one day stop that mutation from happening. But what they're not saying is that we don't know what happens when you go in and alter the DNA. We don't know if fixing that mutation will create a susceptibility to, say, dengue or malaria. We don't know.
Right, and I mean, even if we just talk about like the idea of a technology that could, because when Monsanto first came out with, or when I first heard about the GMO idea many years ago, I was like, oh, something that could get rid of famine, or that could, like, drought-resistant crops, and it sounds really good, particularly when you look at where we're headed with climate change, even if we were to switch to 100% renewables tomorrow. But the main issue, as I understand it, with March Against Monsanto and the anti-GMO stance is not that this could never be useful. It's that it's not useful until we know that it won't hurt people and planet. Is that a correct idea?
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's a common misconception, is that we're anti GMO in the way that it's being used and applied currently. I'm not saying that, the science isn't potentially a good thing. I'm saying that to use pesticides to grow food in the quantity that we're growing them. That is not okay.
So talk about this Monsanto Tribunal that's
Mhm.
taking place October 14th through 16th in The Hague. What is the significance of this tribunal? How did it come to be? And what does this say about the efficacy of groups like March Against Monsanto?
Well, social media has definitely allowed the global message to get out. The Organic Consumers Association and Dr. Vandana Shiva are actually the instigators of the tribunal, which is a citizen and activist campaign to call attention globally to what Monsanto has done for years, a century nearly, between DDT, the chemical dioxin that was used in Agent Orange. They want to the tribunal's purpose is to call on a global scale attention and accountability for what Monsanto has done.
And I think it's important that people also understand that Monsanto is not just, Franken tomato. It's
Mhm.
PCBs that were used in factories and have
Yep.
poisoned, hundreds of towns and talk about it, but like just the scale of what we're looking at with Monsanto, it's not just like the weird
Right.
tomatoes.
No, it's they've robbed us of our soil diversity. They've robbed us of our seed sovereignty. They have displaced millions of farmers all over the world. It isn't just about a Franken tomato, like you said. DDT that wiped out an entire species of the brown pelicans. It's not just about food. It's what their chemicals are doing to our water supply. And generations later, like in Agent Orange, I work closely with many Agent Orange organizations raising awareness because now we see into the second and third generation, people are being born with horrific birth defects and cancers, and Monsanto just gets a free pass. And that just cannot stand.
And so before we continue with the tribunal conversation, I kind of wanted to get a handle on this because you said that you do work with Agent Orange groups. How did it come to pass that the same company that created Agent Orange got sovereignty over our food?
Well, Monsanto owns our government. Our politicians are nothing more than puppets for the biotech industry. We recently saw with the bill that passed that basically made the United States the first country to ban GMO labeling. It's disgusting the amount of money that just filters into the bank accounts of our representatives. It's unfathomable. So they're not doing right by us. They're doing the bidding of the biotech industry, and that's why there's no accountability. That's why the people that produced Agent Orange and DDT and PCBs are now in charge of our food supply, teaming up with Bayer to create this global monopoly on pharmaceuticals and agriculture. It's sickening.
Let's talk about the actions that are happening on the 16th World Food Day.
Yes.
What is the goal of these coordinated actions around the world, and tell us a little bit about the concept behind World Food Day.
Okay, so World Food Day, like you said, is actually October 16th. So we're asking people, because not everyone can make it to The Hague, to be a community leader and, plant a seed that day. Go and, attend one of these festivals, educate your neighbors, encourage, maybe write a letter to your children's school encouraging them to not use Roundup. It doesn't really take a lot. And on that note, while I think it's great that March Against Monsanto does these global days of events, we do one in May as well as the October Food Day. I really encourage people to be proactive on a daily basis. It doesn't take a lot to make a difference in your community, and those little seeds add up to great things.
And of course, the idea that just local politics in general. I mean, you're talking about the U.S. government on a federal level being in bed with Monsanto. But if your local government's in bed with Monsanto, it's a lot easier to have a direct effect as opposed to trying to reach a congressman who's sitting here in D.C. and does not want to and can't hear you.
Yep, you can have a tangible effect on your community. You can really be a thorn in the side of your council members and all that. So it's a really good way to grassroots. We got to start at the bottom and work our way up.
To get more info on the GMO fight, upcoming events, and news, visit marchagainstmonsanto.com.